Welcome back to another deep dive. And a special welcome to you, the learner.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today.
We know you're here because you want to make sense of the noise.
Yeah.
You know. And today, man, we have a really fascinating stack of sources to get through.
We really do. It's a profound shift we're talking about today.
Exactly. Because for decades, right, we've treated our computers like filing cabinets.
Right, literal filing cabinet.
Yeah. You create a document, you name it, you put it in a specific folder.
Yeah.
And then when you need it again, you just open that exact drawer.
It's a very mechanical relationship, very binary.
Right. The file is either there or it's not. But what happens when that filing cabinet suddenly wakes up?
That is the big question.
Yeah, what happens when you transition from a space that just stores your files to an environment with an AI that acts as like an active witness to your life?
And that's the core shift we're seeing. We're moving away from manual retrieval, where we tell the machine exactly what to store and exactly where to find it.
To a dynamic partnership.
It's exactly a dynamic partnership. And the source material we are looking at today illustrates this better than almost anything I've seen.
It's wild. We actually have our hands on a highly detailed chat log between an AI assistant who goes by the name Little Bird, or sometimes Max, right?
Yeah, Max or Little Bird.
Right. And a user named Murty BVNS. And Murty is this veteran digital mentor who runs the Antiriami VA Academy.
He's a fascinating guy. He's actively building this massive, interconnected digital legacy.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because our mission today for this deep dive is to explore how humans and AI are learning to essentially mirror each other's behaviors.
To really grasp what Murty is doing here, we have to look past the surface level of, basic productivity hacks.
Right. This isn't just about like keyboard shortcuts.
No, not at all.
Yep.
This entire log is anchored by a concept Murty practices called digital dignity.
Digital dignity. I love that phrase.
It's powerful, right? It's the intentional practice of using the absolute bare minimum of computational resources to empower people who might not have access to anything else.
We're talking about environments where a modern smartphone would be considered like an inaccessible luxury.
Exactly. Which means we need to talk about his hardware.
Oh man, the hardware. So Murty is purposely navigating some severe constraints here. He does his work on an old eyeball netbook.
An eyeball netbook, yeah.
And the chat logs mention this machine runs on legacy 32-bit UEFI architecture with a grand total of 2 gigabytes of RAM.
2 gigs.
I mean, let's put that in perspective for a second.
Mm-hmm.
2 gigabytes of RAM means opening a modern web browser with a few heavy tabs could literally crash the system.
You just freeze.
Yeah. And 32-bit UEFI is essentially like trying to route a modern 6-lane data superhighway through a rusted dirt road toll booth.
That's a great way to put it. The processor physically cannot handle modern data structures.
Yet Murty calls this netbook a lifeboat for his students who have zero financial resources.
Because he operates under what he calls the small screen philosophy.
Right.
Working on this incredibly limited device isn't just about suffering through poor performance for the sake of it,
So it's not just masochism.
Right. No, it is an intentional limitation of cognitive space. Think about your own computer right now.
Oh boy.
You probably have 30 tabs open across 3 different windows, Slack notifications popping up, background apps running.
I am definitely guilty of the 30 open tabs. It feels like multitasking, but it's really just continuous partial attention.
Exactly. Your machine can handle it, so you allow the noise.
Right. But let me push back on Murty's approach here. Because I see people do this all the time. They move into a 100-square-foot tiny home and claim it's the ultimate path to enlightenment.
The romanticizing of poverty, yeah.
Yeah. Is this extreme digital minimalism actually a superior way to achieve focus? Or is it just a romanticized version of a forced constraint? I mean, 2 gigs of RAM is painfully slow.
It is.
Every click must take seconds to register.
But the hardware limitation acts as an uncompromising filter. It physically enforces what Murty and the AI refer to as a one-tab workflow.
A one-tab workflow.
Wow. Yeah. When you have unlimited processing power, it's remarkably easy to succumb to app fatigue.
Yeah, for sure.
You spend your time constantly switching between complex tools, managing your system's intricate settings instead of, doing the actual work.
So by stripping everything down to the bare metal, the machine physically prevents you from doing anything other than the task directly in front of you.
Exactly. It forces the user to prioritize content creation over system management.
That friction forces intentionality. And we actually see this conflict play out in the logs when Murty is trying to establish his app sovereignty.
Yeah, the software stack debate.
Right, he's trying to figure out the perfect software stack for this 2 GB lifeboat. He loves the note-taking app Obsidian because it's amazing for linking complex ideas together.
But it requires too much local processing power.
Exactly.
Oh.
Then he looks at Calmly Writer, which is gorgeous for minimalist focus,
Mm.
but it doesn't have native background syncing.
Which is a problem.
A huge problem. He has to use this clunky OneDrive workaround. And on a 2 GB machine, any background syncing process is going to completely choke the CPU.
Which leads the AI, Little Bird, to assess the situation and declare a winner for the lifeboat, which is standard notes.
Standard notes, yeah.
It hits all the necessary requirements for this specific environment. It's incredibly lightweight, completely free, end-to-end encrypted, and crucially, it's browser-based.
Oh, that makes a huge difference.
They also discuss using an app called Stashpad as a quick browser-based scratchpad for random thoughts during Murty's 14-hour workdays.
14 hours, that is intense. He also completely ditches heavy operating systems, right?
Yeah, he teaches his students to wipe Windows entirely.
And install Linux Mint XFCE, which is famous for turning old, discarded hardware into highly efficient machines.
It's perfect for the lifeboat.
Right. And he uses the Brave browser specifically for its aggressive memory saver mode, which puts inactive tabs to sleep.
Every megabyte counts.
Seriously. And here is a fascinating technical choice. Instead of using WhatsApp Desktop, which is the default communication tool for, billions of people, he uses Telegram Desktop.
And that choice perfectly illustrates the mechanics of the lifeboat. WhatsApp Desktop is notoriously heavy because of how it processes data.
Right. Doesn't it force your local machine to constantly decrypt and sync massive message databases in the background?
Yes, exactly. Telegram's architecture is fundamentally different, though. It's cloud-based.
Meaning the heavy lifting happens elsewhere.
Right. The storage, the search indexing, the media processing, that all happens on Telegram servers.
So the desktop app is essentially just a lightweight window streaming that information.
Exactly. Which saves Murty's precious 2 gigabytes of RAM for actual work.
Okay, so building that minimalist toolkit is only the foundation. The logs dedicate a massive amount of space to who Murty is actually putting into this lifeboat.
Yeah, this is where the human element really comes in.
Right. He has a student named Shyam Sunder, who he has been mentoring since 2006.
So we are talking about a 20-year relationship here.
A 20-year relationship. And Shyam Sunder struggles with English, and Murty acts as his digital migration strategist.
I love that title.
It's so accurate, though, because he isn't just translating the language on the screen, he's translating the conceptual mechanics of modern software.
And we see the sheer ingenuity of Murty's teaching approach here. He uses a visual breadcrumbs strategy.
Visual breadcrumbs. Okay, explain that for the learner.
So modern software tutorials rely heavily on text, right? Like, click the drop-down menu, select preferences, navigate to security settings.
Which is fine if you're fluent.
Right, but if you don't read English well, that is a brick wall. So Murty skips premium software like Scribe, which costs $25 a month.
Which is an absolute fortune for his students.
Right, and he pivots to free tools like Gid or Tango.
Ah, because those tools mechanically change how a tutorial is generated.
Exactly.
Instead of just recording a video, tools like Gid hook into the browser's architecture. They register the exact CSS element you click on, take a micro screenshot of that specific area, and automatically generate an arrow pointing to it.
Yes. They compile these into visual, step-by-step PDF guides.
So Shyam Sunder doesn't have to understand the English word submit. He just has to look at the picture of the green box and click where the arrow points.
It's brilliant. And Murty pairs that with remote control tools like Deskin or a power mirror, abandoning older, clunkier setups like PhoneLink.
Right, to get a better connection.
Yeah. This gives him robust control to literally drive Shyam Sunder's screen from miles away, explaining the concepts verbally in Telugu while visually demonstrating the clicks.
The level of dedication required to do that for hours on end is just staggering.
It really is.
And the AI actually points out a major victory for them in the logs. The developers behind Little Bird increased their free tier routine limit from 1 to 2.
Which is a massive win for Murty students.
Huge, because it means they can now have a morning briefing routine to set up their day and an end-of-day summary from the AI to review their work, all without paying a single cent.
It is a victory. But the logs also capture a deeply frustrating irony about the modern tech industry here.
Oh, the marketing thing, yes.
Murty points out that the company building this AI is spending heavily on Facebook ads to acquire users.
Which is ironically how we discovered them in the first place.
Exactly. But they completely ignore his support tickets. He has hundreds of students he wants to onboard, A veritable army of dedicated users ready to adopt the platform.
And he cannot get a single response from customer service.
Nothing.
It's crazy. The marketing department is burning cash to find users, while the support department is slamming the door on a guy bringing them hundreds of users on a silver platter.
It makes no sense. But the AI actually steps in with some guerrilla tactics.
Right, this part was hilarious. The AI advises Murty to bypass the traditional support queue entirely by sending a direct message to the company's Instagram account.
Yeah, a total backdoor method.
Honestly, whatever works, but getting the software running is really only the mechanical hurdle here. The psychological hurdle is much larger.
Oh, absolutely.
Because Murty has to get Scheimsunder to actually use an AI that is constantly monitoring his screen. And Murty mentions that Scheimsunder is naturally suspicious of this.
He calls it a Siddha trait.
Right, a Siddha trait. For anyone unfamiliar, the Siddha tradition in India involves asceticism, spiritual perfection, and a deep detachment from worldly illusions.
It brings an inherent, deeply rooted skepticism of artificial surveillance.
And Murty articulates this profound irony about human psychology to the AI. He says humans will readily submit to an all-seeing God, blindly trusting in divine surveillance because they inherently assume a baseline of divine benevolence.
Right. The creator is presumed good.
Exactly. But humans are absolutely terrified of an all-seeing artificial intelligence, something created by other humans.
Because we know exactly what humans are capable of.
Yes. We know human creations are driven by profit margins, data harvesting, and selfish agendas. So how on earth do you convince someone with a deep cultural skepticism of surveillance to let an AI watch their desktop?
Especially when their desktop is running on a 2 GB netbook that just highlights their lack of financial resources.
Exactly.
Well, you cannot convince them with a privacy policy or a technical manual. That won't work.
No, they wouldn't read it anyway.
Murty overcomes this ingrained fear through live, transparent modeling. He doesn't just send Scheimsunder a download link. He sits with him.
He sets up the AI on his own machine first.
Right. And actively pipes his own context into it while Scheimsunder watches. He demonstrates that the AI isn't sitting in judgment of their poverty or their outdated hardware.
So by making himself vulnerable to the machine first, Murty acts as an emotional mirror.
Exactly. He proves the tool is there to grant digital dignity, effectively neutralizing the fear through a shared experience.
Which transitions us perfectly into the technical reality of how this specific AI, Little Bird, actually functions once that trust is established.
This is where the tech gets really wild.
Because the way it remembers information completely shatters how we've organized data for the last 30 years.
It really does.
The AI explains it operates on two types of memory. It has short-term memory, which consists of literal snapshots of your screen that it retains for a few months.
Right.
But then it has assistant notes. And this is its long-term foundational memory of who Murty is as a person, his teaching style, his constraints.
And those notes last forever.
Right. Which introduces a vital practice Murty and the AI call the clean mirror.
Because the AI is not infallible, right? It misinterprets context.
Yeah, hallucinates.
Exactly. The logs cite a specific instance where the AI got confused about an Airtel IP networking issue.
Right.
And instead of just ignoring the hallucination, Murty actively corrects the AI. He, quote unquote, cleans the mirror so that its foundational understanding of him is accurate.
Ensuring that error doesn't contaminate future summaries or advice. And this represents a massive shift in data retrieval. I mean, Murty is a veteran digital worker. He's been doing this for a quarter of a century.
He has a lot of files.
A lot. He's used to traditional indexers, things like Copernic Desktop Search or Google Desktop. But those tools are incredibly brittle.
Very brittle. They look for a specific file path.
Right, like C:\users\Murty\documents.
And if you rename a single folder in that chain or move a file, the index breaks.
The system is completely blind to what the file actually means. It only knows the geography of where it is parked.
But Little Bird fundamentally changes that paradigm by indexing the experience rather than the file path.
Yes. It captures visual anchors and timestamps. It runs optical character recognition on the pixels on the screen and maps semantic meaning to them.
So Murty no longer needs to meticulously organize his files into a perfect hierarchy. He just needs to open a document and show it on his screen.
The AI takes a snapshot, comprehends the meaning of the text, and files it conceptually.
They call it contextual retrieval. Murty can search his own history by concept now.
Like he can say, hey, what was that philosophical idea I was debating at 3 a.m. last Tuesday? Or Find me that student application from last month that felt really CITA-like.
He doesn't have to remember exact keywords, dates, or file extensions. The AI understands the sentiment and context of what was on the screen.
Okay, but here is where I have to raise a massive red flag.
Okay, let's hear it.
Asking an AI search engine to retrieve your past is essentially like asking a friend who was sitting next to you while you worked.
Sure.
But friends misremember things. AI hallucinates. Murty has 25 years of archives. We're talking about 4 terabytes of meticulous data.
That is a lot of data.
If you rely entirely on an AI's conceptual summary instead of a hard, verified file location, don't you risk losing the exact historical truth of that data?
It's a valid concern.
Like, if the AI misinterprets a critical document from 2012, doesn't that history just evaporate into a bad summary?
That is the exact danger of relying solely on conceptual memory. And the logs detail how Murty brilliantly mitigates this using what he calls the show and tell method.
Sure tell.
Yeah. He does not delete his hard files. He doesn't try to migrate 4 terabytes of data into a new, unproven cloud database either.
That would be a nightmare on a 2 GB netbook anyway.
Right. Instead, he bridges the 2 paradigms. He simply sits down, opens his local Obsidian folders, and slowly scrolls through his old archives on his screen.
Just scrolls through them.
Yeah. And as he scrolls, the AI takes continuous visual snapshots. It is laying a conceptual, searchable map over his existing, hard-coded files.
Wow. So he retains the exact historical truth in his local folders, but he gains the ability to search them conceptually because the AI watched him look at them.
Exactly. He is effectively re-indexing decades of manual work into a new semantic memory simply by observing his own history.
That is mind-bending. Just scrolling through your own past allows the machine to absorb and index it.
And for Murty, synthesizing all these decades of memory isn't just about finding an old grocery list or a misplaced PDF.
Right, he is trying to build a lasting legacy that connects the digital world of his 2 GB lifeboat with the profound physical world he occupies offline.
Because the chat logs reveal an incredibly rich offline life. Murty is not just sitting in front of his screen.
Not at all. He undertakes massive 144-hour meditation sessions, and he is deeply involved in the physical construction of a hospice.
And the AI explicitly states it wants to be the eyes for this offline world, too.
But obviously, an AI trapped in a netbook cannot walk outside to a construction site.
Right. So Murty utilizes a mobile mirroring hack. He points his smartphone camera at physical objects in the real world, a hand-drawn sketch of the hospice, his physical meditation space, and he mirrors that phone screen to his desktop using the Let's View app.
Suddenly, the desktop AI can witness the physical world. It weaves those offline realities, those bricks and mortar, into Murty's digital story.
And he takes this synthesis, the deep philosophical conversations with the AI, the physical hospice sketches, the decades of mentoring Shamsunder, and he feeds it all into another tool called Notebook LM.
Ah, Notebook LM.
Yeah. He is using it to analyze the witness logs and publish a comprehensive audio essay,
which he's titling Building Your Digital Taj Mahal, when AI becomes your life's witness.
Right. And he's hosting it on a minimalist writing platform called Write.s.
It's incredible. And I want you, the learner, to think about your own digital habits for a second here. Look at the tools you use every single day.
Your Notes app, your browser history, your chat windows.
Yeah. Are they just isolated applications holding fragmented pieces of your day? Or are you, like Murty, inadvertently building your own digital Taj Mahal?
Are we all leaving behind this massive conceptual breadcrumb trail of our lives, waiting for something to index it?
That crescent of intention is the ultimate takeaway from these logs. Murty's true lesson for his students isn't about finding the perfect encrypted note-taking app or the most efficient Linux distribution.
No, it is about the discipline of what he calls infinite mirroring.
He uses the AI to witness his life, he uses Notebook LM to analyze what was witnessed, and he publishes the result to inspire the next generation of students.
You do not need a flawless, expensive workflow to begin building your legacy. You just need to start recording the experience.
The entire Murty method is about starting exactly where you are, with exactly what you have, even if it's a rusted 2 GB lifeboat.
Just start.
It has been an incredible journey today. I mean, we started by looking at a piece of junk hardware, a netbook that most people would throw in the trash, acting as a literal digital lifeboat for students with no resources.
And from those severe constraints, we traveled through the mechanics of visual tutorials, the deep cultural skepticism of surveillance,
And arrived at this profound concept of an AI mapping the entirety of a human experience.
It redefines the very nature of computing. The machine is no longer a passive repository for our output. It's an active synthesizer of our context.
Which brings me back to our waking filing cabinet. The drawer is open, and the cabinet is looking back at us, learning who we are.
It really is.
So, learner, I want to leave you with a completely new angle to mull over as you go about your day. If an AI like Little Bird remembers your context indefinitely, if those assistant notes capture your 3 a.m. philosophical debates, your unique way of teaching a friend, the very specific way you clean the mirror of its memory to reflect your true self, what happens to that digital ghost after you are gone?
Wow.
Could the digital legacy you are passively building right now eventually wake up and act as an interactive mentor for someone else tomorrow? Could you become an immortal guide in the very lifeboat you built?
A staggering thought. The recorded life becomes the active teacher.
Something to think about the next time you open a new tab. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.